When people think of danger in Subnautica, they think of Leviathans. But in reality, most players don't always die to Leviathans, they die to the smaller things. It's the creatures you see consistently, and it's the creatures you underestimate. Welcome back to the channel, Sub-Zero here, and today I'm ranking every aggressive non-Leviathan creature in Subnautica. Each creature will be judged using the following criteria: damage output, frequency, psychological pressure, and how hard it is to deal with them. So let's get into it. Starting in the safe shallows, we come across the mighty Crashfish, one of the first aggressive creatures you will encounter. The Crashfish is a fauna species that defends its territory by rushing at intruders and exploding, killing itself and dealing considerable damage. Damage output gets a 4 out of 10. They can do some considerable damage, but they won't manage to kill you if you have full health. The fact that they disappear also helps the case. Frequency scores a 4 out of 10. They are found within cave systems in starting biomes, which makes them pretty common early on. But once you start advancing, you see them a lot less. Psychological pressure gets a 7 out of 10. This is because they charge at you, letting out an unfriendly screech. Pretty scary stuff. Lastly, management gets a 2 out of 10. This is because it's pretty easy to avoid them if you spot them early on and don't go near their nest. In conclusion, the Crashfish scores 17 out of 40, putting them in the annoying threat tier. Next up is the Gasopod. The Gasopod is a fairly large, defensive, herbivorous fauna species. It can be found in the safe shallows, crash zone mesas, and the dunes vents, slowly cruising through the water. Damage output gets a 10 out of 10, as when you are in the clouds you will die in seconds. This is why it's a good way to kill Leviathans using Gasopods. Frequency gets a 4 out of 10. They are pretty much in the same biomes as the Crashfish. Psychological pressure gets a 2 out of 10. They may be intimidating at first, but they aren't that scary and they are just chill creatures. Lastly, management gets a 0 out of 10. They are incredibly easy to avoid, and it's hard to die to them accidentally once you know their mechanics. In conclusion, the Gasopod scores 16 out of 40, also putting them in the annoying threat tier. Next up is the very annoying tiger plant. While it is a plant and not a creature, it's definitely worth mentioning them. They can damage you, your vehicles, and even your base, not to mention that they are hard to spot and annoying to deal with. Damage output gets an 8 out of 10. This plant deals high damage at a very rapid rate. Frequency gets a 3 out of 10. They are commonly found in the grassy plateaus and the caves as well. But that's about it. Psychological pressure gets a 1 out of 10. They aren't scary, they are just an annoying little plant. Lastly, management gets a 5 out of 10. Once you know where they are, it's easy to avoid them in spots, but if they are around some resources you want to collect, then they are super annoying to deal with and hard to manage. In conclusion, the tiger plants score 17 out of 40, also putting them in the annoying threat category. Let's spice things up a little. Next up is the Crabsnake, a truly menacing creature. The Crabsnake has a long serpentine body with 2 long translucent fins running from the neck down the sides of its body to the end of its tail. Damage output gets a 6 out of 10. They deal pretty high damage, but yet again, it won't kill you unless you are on low health. Frequency gets a 3 out of 10. They are found everywhere in the jelly shroom caves, but nowhere else. You will barely see them at all. Psychological pressure gets an 8 out of 10. They are pretty big, scary, and can even jump scare you by jumping out of a jelly shroom and grabbing you. Lastly, management gets a 3 out of 10. They are annoying to deal with, but as long as you stay clear of the jelly shrooms, they won't grab you and you'll be fine. In conclusion, the Crabsnake scores 20 out of 40, just barely putting them in the big threat tier due to their scariness and damage capabilities. Next up is the infamous Warper. The Warper is a biomechanical lifeform created by the Precursor race. It can generate a teleportation gate, which it uses to warp itself and other life forms of its size or smaller, at will. Damage output gets a 9 out of 10. These guys deal even more damage the more your Kara infection progresses, which is crazy, with stage 4 dealing nearly 70% of your health. Frequency gets an 8 out of 10. They are found everywhere late game and sometimes in mid game, always keeping you on edge. Psychological pressure gets a 9 out of 10. Knowing that they can teleport you out of your vehicle and out into the ocean is incredibly unsettling. The radio broadcasts you receive from them don't help the case either. Lastly, they get 8 out of 10 for management. They appear often and it's hard to counter them in any way other than running. In conclusion, the Warpers get a 34 out of 40, putting them in the run tier. It's worth mentioning that they become passive once you are cured, but this is at the very end of the game. Next up is the Biter. Biters are a small aggressive fauna species, mostly dwelling in the grassy plateaus, mountains and the jelly shroom cave. Damage output gets 2 out of 10. They only deal 7 damage per bite. Frequency gets a 5 out of 10, as they are found pretty consistently in early and mid game, but not so much late game. Psychological pressure gets a 3 out of 10. They look quite goofy and aren't that scary in my opinion, only scoring some points as they have jump scared me a couple times. Lastly, management gets a 1 out of 10. They are easy to deal with due to their low health. You can easily kill them with a knife. In conclusion, the Biter scores 11 out of 40, just barely putting them in the annoying threat tier. Next up is the Bleeder. The Bleeder is a parasitic fauna species, mainly dwelling in the Aurora, with some populations instead residing in the deep sparse reef. Damage output gets a 7 out of 10. It deals constant damage until you cut it off yourself, which can be pretty deadly if you are not careful. Frequency gets a 6 out of 10. While it's not found everywhere, many are found when repairing the Aurora's drive core, making them a very annoying threat. Psychological pressure gets a 2 out of 10. They are a bit scary as they chase you around, but again, it's a small parasite and nothing too terrifying. Lastly, management gets a 3 out of 10. As annoying as they are easy to deal with, you just have to slice them once with a knife. In conclusion, the Bleeder scores 18 out of 40, putting them in the annoying threat tier. Next up is the Crabsquid. The Crabsquid is an iconic creature and has a unique EMP blast ability. Damage output gets an 8 out of 10. They can nearly take half your health, not to mention their ability to disable your vehicles temporarily. Frequency gets a 5 out of 10. You won't find them early game, but you'll find them very often in mid to end game. Psychological pressure gets a 9 out of 10. The noises they make alone are terrifying, but they also look very creepy. Lastly, management scores an 8 out of 10. They are hard to deal with and the best course of action is just to avoid them. In conclusion, the Crabsquid scores 30 out of 40, just about putting it in the run tier. Next is the Floater. Yes, I know, the Floater is technically a passive creature, but they can damage you and will latch onto you if given the chance. There isn't much to say about these pink blobs, so they instantly get put into the best friends tier. Let's move on to the Sandshark. The Sandshark is a fauna species, dwelling mostly in the grassy plateaus, crashstone and the dunes. They prefer to stay close to or beneath the seafloor, jumping out to attack you. Damage output scores a 5 out of 10. They can do quite a bit of damage to you, so don't underestimate them. Frequency scores a 4 out of 10. They are very common early game, but won't be found in late game. Psychological pressure gets a 5 out of 10. While they don't look incredibly scary, they can sometimes jump out at you and jump scare you. Lastly, management gets a 2 out of 10. It's quite easy to avoid them and stay out of their way. In conclusion, the Sandshark scores 16 out of 40, putting them in the annoying threat tier. Next up is the River Prowler. The River Prowler is a large aggressive species, only being found in the Lost River. Damage output gets a 6 out of 10, as they can deal pretty substantial damage to you and your vehicles if you aren't careful. Frequency gets a 3 out of 10. They are found only in one biome and nowhere else in the game. However, the biome is pretty big. Psychological pressure gets an 8 out of 10, as they look very creepy and make very ghostly type of sounds. Lastly, management gets a 7 out of 10. There isn't really any way to counter them other than running. In conclusion, the River Prowler gets a 24 out of 40, putting them in the big threat category. Let's move on to the Boneshark now. The Boneshark is also a relatively large creature that is very aggressive. It gets a 6 out of 10 for damage output, doing the same damage as the River Prowler. Frequency gets a 7 out of 10. They are found everywhere mid-game, but not so much early and late game. Psychological pressure gets a 4 out of 10. They look pretty creepy and are loud, but other than that, they don't instill true terror. Lastly, the management score is a solid 7 out of 10. Like many other creatures similar to its size and strength, there isn't much you can do other than run. In conclusion, the Boneshark gets a 24 out of 40, tying it with the River Prowler and putting it in the big threat tier. Now let's talk about the blood and cave crawlers. We will rank them at the same time. The cave crawler is an aggressive fauna species that can be found on the Aurora, in the underwater islands, on the mountain island, in the dunes, and the floating island. On the other hand, the blood crawler is mainly found in the blood kelp caves. It can also be found in lesser numbers in the lower areas of the Lost Rivers Ghost Forest. For damage output, the cave crawler gets a 2 out of 10, doing minimal damage, and so does the blood crawler, as it also does the same amount of damage. Frequency is a 5 out of 10 for the cave crawler and a 3 out of 10 for the blood crawler, as you will find the blood crawler less and more in mid to end game. The cave crawler only gets 2 out of 10 for psychological pressure, as it's small and not scary, whereas the blood crawler gets a 4 out of 10. It has longer legs, making it look like a creepy spider. Lastly, management gets a 2 out of 10 for the cave crawler, as you can propulsion cannon them away, whereas the blood crawler gets a 4 out of 10, as they are a bigger threat and you should just stay out of the way. In conclusion, the cave crawlers get 11 out of 40, putting them in the annoying tier. The blood crawler gets a 13 out of 40, also putting it in the same tier. Next up is the Ampeel. The Ampeel frequently emits zapping noises when in proximity, which is also heard when it uses electrical attacks. Damage output gets a 7 out of 10. They can take nearly half of your health, making them a big threat. Frequency gets a 3 out of 10, as they aren't found in many biomes and are only found in mid-game biomes. Psychological pressure gets a 5 out of 10. The zapping sounds they make may scare you a little, and their own looks tell you that they are an aggressive creature. Lastly, management gets an 8 out of 10. There isn't much you can do other than evade them. In conclusion, the Ampeel scores 23 out of 40, putting them in the big threat tier. Now let's talk about the Mesmer. The Mesmer is a unique fish, as it is capable of manipulating your mind, causing you to hear the PDA telling you to swim closer. Damage output gets a 5 out of 10, as they deal a good chunk of your health. Frequency gets a 3 out of 10. They are found pretty rarely, but are in multiple biomes. Psychological terror gets a 6 out of 10. When you encounter them the first time, it's very scary hearing your own PDA talk so weirdly. Lastly, management gets a 2 out of 10. They are easy to avoid by just not looking at them. In conclusion, the Mesmer scores 16 out of 40, putting them in the annoying threat tier. Moving on to the Stalker now. They are mainly found in the kelp forest and occasionally in the crash zone. Damage output gets a 5 out of 10. They can deal quite a bit of damage, but again, nothing lethal. Frequency gets a 4 out of 10. They are only found in the kelp forests, but you will pass this biome often. Psychological pressure gets a 4 out of 10, as they are pretty scary at first, especially with the noises they make. Lastly, management gets a 2 out of 10. They are pretty easy to deal with, as you can tame them with metal scrap or a peeper. In conclusion, the Stalker scores 15 out of 40, putting it in the annoying threat tier. Let's move on to the lava lizard now. The lava lizard is found in the inactive lava zone, and is a mid-sized aggressive creature. Damage output gets a 5 out of 10. They deal some damage, but nothing crazy. Frequency gets a 1 out of 10, as they are found towards the very end of the game. Psychological pressure gets a 3 out of 10, as they look a bit menacing, but aren't that scary. Lastly, management gets a 4 out of 10. As long as you avoid them in your prawn suit, you'll be fine. In conclusion, the lava lizard gets 13 out of 40, putting it in the annoying threat tier. The very last creature we are covering today is the alien robot. You will rarely encounter them, and they do incredibly small amounts of damage, putting them in the best friends tier. And that's all for today. Thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure today. If you like this type of content, then like and subscribe to join the Sub-Zero community. What would you change in the tier list? Comment your thoughts and disagreements below. I always love hearing your comments. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.